Coach Mann, thank you very much for joining us today. What does it mean for you as a coach? You're coaching these players during some of the most formative years of hockey and really able to instill sound morals, ethics, and a clear style in their gameplay. What does it mean for you to be able to go and deliver that for each and every one of these players?
Well, I think the one thing that's helped me is obviously coming from the American League for so many years when you're trying to develop talent to get to the NHL. And this level is obviously younger, but at the same time, you're trying to develop NHL hockey players. Now, obviously, not everyone's going to make the NHL, but if you're playing in the OHL or the CHL, the main focus is to try to get to that level. And everybody inspires to be the next Sidney Crosby or Nathan McKinnon, those type of players. So you're trying to maintain focus on trying to be the best player you can possibly be, at the same time knowing that there is a future, maybe NCAA, maybe U Sports, maybe Europe. But at the end of the day, from a coaching perspective, we want them to be as developed as possible, whatever level they play at next. Because I've been at that next level, seeing an OHL player come in or an NCAA player come in, and I think it's a kudos to a coaching staff where if you make it to the next level, you want that coaching staff saying good things about where they've come, and they've come from a good program. And that's why we try and do everything with as much detail and structure as possible here, both on and off the ice, to make sure when they do leave that they're as prepared as possible.
You mentioned young players. What about a player that isn't even playing in the OHL yet but has the aspiration to make it to this level? Do you want them to have their own style of play, or is it easier to go and model your play after a player that's already been successful in the NHL?
I think for players that aren't quite here yet, they've got to develop their own niche or their own role, right? Because as scouts say, if you don't have a role, it's pretty hard to draft you, right? Because as you climb the ladder, you're going to be some type of role, right? Maybe you're a skill guy that's going to play power play. Maybe you're going to be a bottom 6'4" that's going to be PK. Same thing on the back end. There's only so many Makars around. Everybody's got a role to play, and it's the same at this level. You've got to develop something that impresses a scout, and maybe that's a physical play. Maybe that's blocking shots. Maybe it's, scouts looking for who's on the ice with a 3-2 goal lead the last minute of a game. Those are all little things that people look for in players. And if you're not at this level, you want them to come in and be themselves, and then you can mold them and use their skill set to fit into your structure and your systematic play. And I think for us, we've had a lot of movement this year. We've had some injuries. I think we've only used our regular 12 forwards 2 games this year so far, and we're heading into game 52. So from that perspective, you just want them to wherever they're playing, you want them to play to another coach's structure or how he's want them to fit in, right? Because you can't control what's going on outside your own locker room.
We see every player have a level of buy-in. And I already talked about playoffs with you, and we already talked about that vibe, but is there a level of even incentivizing players for next year, saying we could see the development you're already putting forward and having that structured plan for them to know how they can continue to develop year after year?
Well, we usually meet with guys 3 times a year, and that's kind of when you look at the overall picture of where their development's been or going, where their analytics are in terms of the style of play that we've put into place. But I think at the end of the day, players need to completely focus on this season, and our approach is really on a week-to-week basis. Every coaching staff has their own ideas. Some coaching staff like to do 5-game segments. A lot of coaches like to do 7. Some like to do 10. And I've been part of, all those type of ideas. But, for me, we go week to week here. Started doing that a few years ago and just felt that it just focus on what's in front of you and not worry about next week or the week after. And so normally in a season like the OHL, except for the start of the year, you're really dealing with 3 games a week. And I think, for us, we try and set goals to get 4 to 6, right? And if you can get 4 to 6 over the course of 28 weeks, which is what an OHL season is, you look up in the standings come March 15th, and you're in pretty good shape right now. Obviously, you've got to get those 4 to 6, because if you don't, you're going to be lower in the standings. And if you even look at how we started, right, 7-3-1, and then you go through an 0-6 stretch. We went through an 0-7 1-1 stretch. Those are 3 weeks right there. So you've got to win some weeks to catch up in the standings. So I think we've done a good job of that, because we've had some weeks where we've got 6 out of points, 6 out of 6. Even the last 2 weeks we've got 4 to 6. So that's kind of the mindset with us as a coaching staff, with our players, and just try and focus on the next one, right? And they've done a pretty good job of that.